federal agent caught in a midnight shakedown. The fog rolled low across Route 19, the kind of fog that swallowed headlights before they reached the tree line. 2 patrol units sat dark behind a collapsed billboard just past the Caldwell County line. They had learned to wait here where the cell towers thinned out and the nearest working streetlight was 11 miles behind them. Corporal Dale Renner watched the gray sedan pass with Ohio plates, a rental sticker still curling on the bumper. He nudged the younger deputy beside him. "Out of toner, alone, no trailer," he said. "That's a soft one. If we get a vehicle, Meeks is still on call," Renner added. Deputy Tyler Voss said nothing, just reached for the light bar switch. Neither of them noticed the small black transponder mounted beneath the sedan's rear bumper, blinking once every 4 seconds, reporting the vehicle's position to a federal relay station 200 miles away. Neither of them noticed the reinforced case locked into the cargo floor, its tamper sensor already primed, waiting for a shock it had not yet felt. The driver noticed everything. He had spent 11 years learning to read a road before it read him, and this stretch of pine and swamp water told him exactly what kind of stop this was going to be. He signaled early, slowed smooth, and pulled onto the gravel shoulder without being told. He believed, the way he had believed 100 times before on lonelier roads than this one, that the 2 men walking toward his window did not think anyone was watching them. He was already wrong about that, though he would not say so. His name was Marcus Whitfield. He was 45 years old, a special agent with the Diplomatic Security Service, and for the last 6 days he had been quietly mapping a secure travel corridor for an upcoming witness transfer near the Gulf Coast. Nobody on this stretch of Route 19 knew his name yet, and that was exactly how the assignment was supposed to work. His badge, service weapon, encrypted radio, and route survey documents classified for internal use only were sealed inside a reinforced operational transport case, bolted into the trunk well of his rental car. He wore a plain gray jacket and jeans. He drove a rental sedan with an expired air freshener still clipped to the vent. He looked, to anyone glancing through a windshield in the dark, like exactly nobody. Corporal Renner approached from the driver's side, flashlight sweeping the interior before it settled on Whitfield's hands, already resting flat on the wheel. "Lice and registration," Renner said. "You were drifting over the center line back there." Whitfield's cruise control had been locked at 54 miles an hour for the last 11 minutes, and he knew, without needing to check, that his lane discipline had not slipped once. He did not argue. "Yes, sir," he said. "My license is in my jacket pocket right side. Rental agreements in the glove box. Tell me how you'd like me to move." Renner's flashlight lingered a beat too long on that answer. Nervous men stammered. Guilty men over-explained. This man simply told him where everything was, calm as a man reading a grocery list, and that unsettled Renner more than any excuse could have. "Step out of the vehicle," Renner said instead. Whitfield complied without hesitation, hands visible. Movement slow and telegraphed, the way he had trained hundreds of junior agents to move during a hostile stop. Voss stood near the rear bumper, one hand resting close to his sidearm, watching the driver with the stiff posture of someone still new enough to feel the wrongness of what was happening, but not yet sure what to do about it. "I smell marijuana," Renner announced to no one in particular, loud enough for the dashcam microphone to catch it clean. There was no marijuana in the car. There had never been marijuana in the car. The rental had been inspected and logged clean before the assignment, with no narcotics or property left behind by a prior occupant. "I don't consent to a search of my vehicle or my property," Whitfield said evenly, without raising his voice. "I'm stating that once clearly, for the record." Renner smiled the way men smile when they've heard that sentence before and watched it change nothing. "We'll see," he said, and began the pat-down. His hands were rough, testing, pressing along Whitfield's ribs and waistband, hunting for a reaction that never came. Voss stood closer now, palm still hovering near his holster, watching Whitfield's face for the flicker of anger that usually justified what came next. It didn't come. "Nothing," Renner muttered, disappointed rather than relieved, and turned toward the car. He tore into the glove box first, scattering the rental paperwork across the passenger seat. He pulled up the floor mats. He dug his fingers into the seams of the back seat, searching for the shape of cash rolled into a rubber band. the shape he had learned to feel for on a dozen other travelers who never came back to file a complaint. He found receipts, a phone charger, and a folded county map. Nothing that paid. "Open the trunk," Renner said. Voss moved to comply, and that was when he saw it, bolted into a custom mount in the trunk floor. A matte gray case with a biometric latch and a small blinking status light along its seam. "What is that?" Voss asked, and for the first time that night, his voice cracked slightly on the question. "That," Whitfield said, still standing with his hands visible, still perfectly calm, "is federal equipment. It's locked for a reason. There's no warrant here, no contraband's been found, and I've refused consent twice. I'd advise you both to think carefully about what happens if that case gets opened without proper authority. Not as a threat, as a fact you'll want to have thought through later." Renner laughed, short and humorless, and reached for the flex cuffs on his belt instead. "Obstruction," he said, "interfering with a lawful investigation. Turn around." Whitfield turned around. He let the cuffs bite down harder than they needed to, said nothing about it, and let himself be walked to the cruiser while Renner popped the trunk latch and reached for the tire iron in his own vehicle. "Last warning I'll give either of you," Whitfield said quietly, over his shoulder, to Voss now more than to Renner. "The vehicle transponder has already logged this stop and its location. If that case is forced, a second channel opens somewhere neither of you control. Somebody will ask who held the door open. Think about which answer you want that to be." Voss said nothing, but his hand had drifted away from his holster. Renner wedged the tire iron under the case's reinforced seam and threw his weight against it. The latch resisted twice, then gave with a sharp metallic crack that echoed across the empty road. Inside the vehicle's undercarriage, a relay chip registered the shock exactly as designed. 200 miles away, inside a diplomatic security service monitoring room in Atlanta, a duty officer's console lit with a single amber alert. "Unauthorized access, courier case 4419, location confirmed, audio channel opening automatically." Renner shoved the lid open expecting a bundle of cash or a bag of pills. Instead, his flashlight found a federal credential wallet, a folded badge bearing the eagle seal of the Diplomatic Security Service, a compact radio with an encrypted channel display still blinking, and a manila folder stamped with a route designation he did not recognize and was not supposed to. For a long moment, neither officer said anything. "He's a Fed," Voss said finally, barely above a whisper. Renner's face didn't show fear so much as fast arithmetic, the look of a man recalculating every stop he had made on this road for the last 6 years. "We didn't find anything," Renner said, mostly to himself. "We can put it back. Say the case fell open during transport. Say he grabbed for it." "He's cuffed," Voss said. "He never touched it. You did." "Then we lose the case," Renner snapped. "Dump it in the swamp past the tree line. Say we never opened it. Wipe your dash cam before anyone reviews the file." Voss looked at the blinking radio, then at Whitfield, still seated calm and cuffed in the back of the cruiser, watching them both without a trace of satisfaction. "I'm not wiping anything," Voss said, and for the first time that night his voice didn't shake at all. Renner's hand moved toward his sidearm, more reflex than plan, and Whitfield's voice cut through the fog before it could go any further. "Whatever you're about to do, Corporal, it's already being recorded through a channel you can't reach and can't erase," Whitfield said. "The case you just broke doesn't just hold my badge. It holds a live microphone. Put the weapon down and this stays a bad career decision instead of a very different kind of charge." Renner froze, hands still on the grip, staring down the empty road as if it might offer him an exit that didn't exist. Headlights appeared first, 3 sets, then a 4th, moving fast and without sirens. A regional protective response team had already been positioned along the corridor, because Whitfield was surveying a future witness transfer route. 2 unmarked SUVs and a support vehicle rolled to a stop along the shoulder, doors opening before the tires had fully settled. Agents in plain tactical vests, moving with the unhurried efficiency of people who had done this before and did not need to shout to be obeyed. "Corporal, step away from your weapon and place both hands where I can see them," the lead agent said, and Renner, staring at 4 raised sidearms and a scene he could no longer control, let his hand fall away. They separated the 2 officers before either could speak with the other again. They freed Whitfield's cuffs, examined the broken case without disturbing its contents further, and sealed the vehicle, the cruiser, and both officers' body cameras before Renner's supervisor even picked up his phone. Within the hour, a federal case number had been assigned. During the first week, preservation orders and subpoenas secured the records Renner and his sheriff had never expected anyone to examine. Over the following months, financial records pulled under subpoena revealed a pattern stretching back nearly 6 years. Cash seizures from out-of-state travelers, logged inconsistently or not at all, and property routed through a tow yard owned by Meeks. Investigators found that Meeks split proceeds with Renner, and on occasion, with Sheriff Boyd Latham. Investigators found the name of a traveling nurse, Dana Ellison, stopped on this same stretch of road 18 months earlier and relieved of nearly $6,000 in emergency savings after Renner threatened her with a felony trafficking charge she had never come close to earning. She had left without a fight because fighting had never seemed like an option that stretch of road allowed. When federal investigators called to tell her the case had been reopened, she was quiet for a long time before she asked if this meant somebody had finally believed her. Voss cooperated fully once the interviews began, providing dates, names, and the location of an unofficial storage unit where seized property had been kept off the books for years. His cooperation reduced his exposure but did not erase it, and in the months that followed he pleaded to a lesser charge, lost his certification permanently, and accepted a probationary sentence that closed the door on any future in law enforcement. Renner faced federal charges of deprivation of rights under color of law, conspiracy, theft of seized property, and obstruction tied to the attempted destruction of evidence. State charges separately addressed the assault and false imprisonment of Marcus Whitfield. Renner was suspended without field authority, pending separate criminal, departmental, and certification proceedings. He was given representation and an opportunity to answer the evidence before any final employment decision. Sheriff Latham resigned before his own indictment was formally announced. TOW operator Meeks was charged separately for laundering seized vehicles through falsified auction records. In the months that followed, the state legislature passed new oversight rules for roadside cash seizures along rural corridors. Search justification now had to be recorded before a vehicle could be entered, and all seized property had to move through an independent custodial account rather than departmental control. A protected reporting channel was established for junior officers who witnessed misconduct they were not yet in a position to stop. Dashcam and bodycam files from roadside seizures also received automatic preservation holds, and arresting officers could no longer direct seized vehicles to a preferred tow yard. Dana Ellison received her returned funds, along with a formal letter of correction, and told a local reporter only that she was glad the road finally had someone watching it besides the men who had once controlled it. Marcus Whitfield never gave an interview. He accepted a replacement courier case from the regional office, resealed with a new lock and a fresh tamper log, and resumed the route survey 3 days later as though the interruption had simply been part of the job. He drove the last stretch of Route 19 at dusk, windows down, radio quiet, checking his mirror out of habit rather than fear. Corrupt men on quiet roads survive because they believe no record of them exists. The shadow ends the moment evidence, a witness willing to speak, and lawful authority finally arrive at the same place, at the same time. This is a fictional story created for storytelling purposes.